The Great Brinks Heist is one of the most famous robberies in American history. It happened in Boston, Massachusetts, in January 1950. People still talk about it today because it seemed, at first, like the thieves had pulled off the perfect crime. They stole millions of dollars from a very secure building, escaped without hurting anyone, and left almost no clues behind. For years, the police and the FBI had no idea who did it. But even though the robbery was carefully planned, it was not truly perfect. In the end, human emotions, fear, greed, anger, and betrayal caused the gang to fall apart. This is the long, detailed story of how the heist happened, how the robbers got caught, and why the event became legendary. To understand the Great Brinks Heist, it helps to know what the Brinks building was. Brinks was a well-known security company that handled money for banks, businesses, and governments. Their building in Boston acted like a central money storage location. Every day, armored trucks brought in cash, checks, coins, and other valuables. Inside the building, guards counted and sorted money and prepared packages to send to banks. Because so much money flowed in and out, the building had strict security. There were guards on duty, alarms, strong doors, and locked rooms. To break into a place like this was extremely difficult, and most criminals would never dare to try. But a group of men in Boston decided they could do it if they planned well enough. The group that organized the heist included 11 thieves. They were not random small-time criminals. Many of them were experienced burglars who had committed robberies before. Their leader was a man named Joseph Big Joe McGinnis. Although the group did not have a single boss who made all the decisions, another important member was Joseph Specs O'Keefe, known for being careful and intelligent. The group also included men like Anthony Pino, who helped with planning, and several others who would later play different roles in the robbery. These men did not wake up one day and decide to rob Brinks. They spent nearly 2 years preparing. The planning began around 1947 or 1948. One member of the gang noticed security weaknesses at the Brinks building. Guards followed the same routines every day. They arrived and left at predictable times. They carried large bags of money in and out. And, most importantly, the outside of the building looked stronger than it actually was. If someone studied the guards, their habits, and the layout of the building, they might find a way to sneak inside without using violence or breaking anything obvious. The thieves decided to watch the building very closely. They did not want to rush into anything. Their goal was to understand everything before they acted. For months, the gang watched the Brinks building from nearby streets, restaurants, and cars. They memorized the times when money arrived and when guards locked or unlocked doors. They noticed that a small side door, the trap door, was usually unlocked when employees were moving money in or out. They also figured out how to copy the building's keys. This part of the plan was very tricky. One member secretly got access to a key for only a few minutes, but that was enough to make a perfect duplicate. Over time, the gang collected copies of almost every key they needed. By 1949, the thieves had enough information to start testing the building. They went inside at night using the copied keys. They moved quietly, stayed in shadows, and avoided leaving fingerprints. Each time, they stayed only a few minutes to make sure the keys worked and to learn more about the inside. They discovered the exact room where millions of dollars were stored. They also realized that, at certain times, the guards were relaxed and not paying as much attention. The thieves understood that if they moved quickly and silently, they could take the money without firing a gun. The gang prepared carefully for the night of the robbery. They bought rubber Halloween masks to hide their faces. These masks made them look like strange, expressionless characters. They also wore gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints. They practiced entering and exiting buildings quietly. They agreed on signals and code words. Each member of the group had a job, whether it was tying up guards, carrying money, or watching the door. They decided that the best time to strike was when the guards were counting the day's money, because at that moment, the vault would be open. Finally, on January 17, 1950, the gang decided the moment had come. That evening, It was cold, dark, and windy, perfect conditions for a robbery, since fewer people were on the streets. At about 7 p.m., the thieves walked toward the Brinks building wearing their masks and heavy coats. They carried pistols, but they did not plan to use them. Their goal was to threaten the guards without hurting anyone. Using their copied keys, they quietly entered the building. Everything went exactly as they had practiced. Inside, a small group of guards was busy counting money. They were relaxed, talking among themselves, and did not expect anything unusual. Suddenly, the thieves rushed in. They pointed their guns, shouted commands, and told the guards to put their hands up. The guards were shocked, confused, and frightened. They did not try to fight back. The thieves tied their hands with tape and blindfolded them. The whole thing took less than a minute. Not a single shot was fired. The gang then moved quickly to the room where the money was stored. They found bags and containers filled with cash, coins, and checks. They grabbed everything they could carry. In total, they stole $2.7 million, a huge amount of money in 1950. Today, it would be worth many tens of millions of dollars. After loading the bags, the thieves left the building as silently as they entered. They disappeared into the night, leaving almost no evidence behind. The entire robbery took less than 20 minutes. When the guards finally freed themselves, they called the police. Officers from all over Boston rushed to the scene. Everyone was shocked at how smoothly the robbery had been carried out. There were no fingerprints, no footprints, no useful clues. The guards could not describe the thieves because of the masks and blindfolds. It seemed like the robbers were ghosts. Newspapers called it the perfect crime, and the entire country talked about the mysterious thieves who had stolen millions. The FBI joined the investigation because of the large amount of money involved. Agents interviewed hundreds of people, searched buildings, questioned criminals, and tried to trace the money. But because the thieves had planned so carefully, investigators found nothing. The gang had split the money and hidden it. They did not spend large amounts right away, because that would attract attention. For a long time, it seemed like the gang might actually get away with the crime. But even the best planned crimes can fall apart because of human nature. After the heist, the thieves began to argue about how to divide the money. Some felt they deserved more than others. Some worried that others would reveal the secret. Two members of the group, Joseph O'Keefe and Stanley Guseurin, got into serious trouble unrelated to the robbery. They were arrested for other crimes. When O'Keefe went to prison, he felt that the rest of the gang was not helping him. He believed they owed him protection and money because he was one of the key planners. When they did not support him, he grew angry and resentful. The situation became even worse when Anthony Pino, one of the leaders, hired a man to put pressure on O'Keefe, possibly to keep him quiet. O'Keefe felt betrayed and feared for his life. While he was hiding in Pennsylvania, men connected to the gang fired gunshots at him. O'Keefe barely survived. Now he had two choices: stay loyal to the gang that had tried to kill him, or help the FBI in exchange for protection. The choice was easy. O'Keefe decided to talk. Once O'Keefe began telling the truth, the entire case opened up. He gave the FBI names, details, locations, and instructions about how the heist had been carried out. With this confession, agents were able to arrest most of the gang members. Remarkably, the arrests happened just days before the legal deadline. The statute of limitations would have expired. If the FBI had waited a few more days, the thieves could no longer have been charged with the crime. The timing made the case even more dramatic. The trials that followed were big news. The public was fascinated by the story of the 2-year planning, the creepy masks, the silent robbery, and the betrayal among the thieves. Most members of the gang were sentenced to long prison terms. However, only a small amount of the stolen money was ever recovered. To this day, no one knows what happened to most of the $2.7 million. Some of it may have been spent quietly over the years. Some of it may have been hidden and never found. And some might still be out there, lost or buried. Even though the thieves were caught, The Great Brinks Heist became legendary because it showed how far people can go in planning a crime. It also showed that no matter how perfect a plan seems, people make mistakes. Trust breaks down. Greed gets in the way. Fear changes loyalties. In the end, the human side of the crime, anger and jealousy, undid everything the thieves had built. The Robbery remains a powerful story about planning, risk, teamwork, and betrayal. Today, the Brinks Heist is often studied in books, documentaries, and crime courses. It is remembered as one of the most carefully organized robberies ever attempted in the United States. The idea of a perfect crime still fascinates many people, but the Brinks case proves that perfection is nearly impossible. Something always goes wrong, especially when many people are involved. The heist is a reminder that crimes might look exciting in stories, but in reality, they ruin lives, destroy friendships, and almost always end badly. The Great Brinks Heist lives on as a fascinating chapter in American crime history. It is a story full of suspense, secrecy, clever planning, and dramatic failure. It teaches lessons about patience and intelligence, but also about the deep weaknesses that exist within all groups of people. In simple terms, it is the story of a group of men who nearly pulled off the perfect robbery but who ultimately could not escape the consequences of their own choices.